Hi, my name is Meredith Westbrook, and I would like to present my applied project on creating a classroom community through team building. Of course, as a teacher, one of my goals is to help students feel comfortable within the classroom, but I've noticed teaching middle school, because those years are so hard for many students, that sometimes they have trouble making a connection and feeling connected to the classroom community, and sometimes it just doesn't feel like a classroom community because of that. My roots in working with kids come from counseling camp, and in this environment we do a lot of team building activities. We do icebreakers so that the kids get to know one another and feel comfortable with one another. So I started thinking, what would happen if I did some of those same team building activities in my classroom? What if I intentionally tried to help students build relationships with one another? Would they be able to learn each other's names faster, find partners or groups easier? Would they see the classroom as a community? What would I notice about their behaviors within the classroom? I felt that the standards that align with this project are the NAGC standards 2, 3, and 4. There are really 3 components of this project design. Student surveys, there are 2 parts of that. One was an initial survey, which I'll talk more about, and another was the post survey, again, which I will talk more about. Then throughout this project, I observed our classroom community, and I was looking for certain things such as, does it seem like the students are working well together? Does it seem like they are able to resolve conflict peacefully? Does it seem like they are able to have positive relationships with one another? Am I noticing positive relationships with me as a teacher? And then also I observed the student outcomes, such as how quickly they were able to learn each other's names, how easy was it to find partners, and again, just within their general interactions. So with the context, I did this study with 8th graders at C.W. Davis Middle School in Flowery Branch, Georgia, which is part of the Hall County School District. Flowery Branch is at the southern end of Hall County, about an hour north of Atlanta. The school opened in 1999, and in the last 20 years, this area has seen a lot of growth. It went from being rural to suburban, and when the school opened, all that I remember being around there, and I didn't start working there in 1999, but I do remember seeing the area back then. And all that I really remember near the school, there was a Publix, a church, and a gas station. And really there was nothing else. It was just land everywhere. Nothing was really built up. But about 6 to 7 years after the school was built, things started booming. Now there's a Kohl's, a Home Depot, a Target right by the school. There are churches, subdivisions, banks, restaurants, all kinds of things have popped up in the last 20 years. And the area has seen so much growth that our school has actually moved into a bigger building, then it got redistricted, and then we moved back to our old building. So now we're back in our old building this year, and we're a smaller set of students and faculty, and I felt that this was a particularly good year to conduct a project like this because of our smaller numbers and because it kind of feels like a new school again with all of the changes. In our school, according to Public School Review, the population is approximately 71% white, 19% Hispanic, 5% Black, 3% multiracial, and 2% Asian. 36% of the students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. And if you look at the red arrow on the screen, it's pointing to me. I'm wearing that jersey that says number 4. Okay, with the participants, I did this with my 8th grade classes. There are 2 of those. They are both Honors Spanish 1, and between the 2 classes there are 53 students. Of the 53, 40 are identified as white non-Hispanic, 7 are identified as Hispanic, 5 as Black non-Hispanic, and 1 as Asian. There are 25 male and 28 female students. 13 of the students are identified as gifted, And within this gifted population, there are 11 identified as white, non-Hispanic, 1 as black, non-Hispanic, and 1 as Asian. 3 students have a 504 plan, 2 have an IEP, all but 5 have a Lexile score of at least 1100, and 13 of the students are identified as economically disadvantaged. Here is a list of the activities, and I'll go into a little more detail when each one pops up here in the presentation. With the name tally, I've noticed that students have trouble remembering each other's names. Even by the end of the year, sometimes they don't all know each other. And so part of building the community is knowing who we are. So I took a tally on day 1, day 7, and day 25 to see how fast we could learn each other's names. And as you can see, this is just from second period, but by day 25, 80% of the students knew more than 20 names, and there are 29 in that class. The results for first period were similar, so by day 25, 80% of the students knew the majority of the students in their class. On day 1, I did an icebreaker called Would You Rather, and in this icebreaker, they got to choose between 2 options, and they would move from one side of the room or the other depending on which option they chose. And this activity did exactly what it was supposed to do. It broke the ice. It got them kind of chatting with each other as they would discuss their answers, walking back and forth. And it was just a fun way to start to get to know each other on that first day. Within the first week, I gave them a survey through Qualtrics. I asked them 2 questions that you can see here. And from their response on the second question, I examined those and started looking for building, ways that we were building community in the classroom based on what they had said. And it kind of guided the different activities so that I was sure to incorporate some of the answers that they gave, such as I felt that my teacher cared, or I felt that I had friends. I felt comfortable enough to ask questions, things like that. The next week we did an activity called Cartoon Panels. Here you see 3 panels. I cut them into thirds. They walked into class. They randomly got 1/3 of the cartoon, and then they had to find the other 2/3. And they would put it together, come show me, and I would tell them if they got it right or not, and if they didn't, they would try again. And then that was the group that they worked with for that day. Canvas is our online platform that we use in Hall County. So this icebreaker was through the online platform Canvas, and I gave them this prompt: I am a human being that, and then everything else was fill in the blank. Loves blank, wants to become blank, has the goal of blank. And they would just fill out their responses and post it. I encouraged them to read everybody's. I asked them to respond to at least 2 people, and I responded to everyone's. So this was a fun way to get to know some things about my students that I would have not known before. The next week we did an activity called La Tomatina, which is a big tomato fight in Spain. So what we did was we learned about it. It happens the last Wednesday in August in a town called Buñol. So we watched 2 videos. This image here is the first part of one of the videos. And after we learned about it, we had a simulation tomato fight, you might say. They wrote down on a red sheet of paper that I provided who they would take to this tomato fight, La Tomatina. If they had the chance to go, who would they take and why? And then they turned it into me. I read each one to make sure it was okay. I wrote down who said what. They balled their paper up, put it in a basket. Once everyone had done that, we sat in a big circle in the middle of my room, passed out the paper balls. I turned on some music. Then they were told that they could throw the paper ball tomatoes at one another for 1 minute. When the music stopped, they had to stop. They picked 1 tomato off the floor, or if it was in their hand, but they only had to have 1. We made sure everybody got 1. Then we took turns reading them aloud and guessing who had said what. And they got 3 chances to guess, and if they weren't able to get it by the 3rd chance, I told them who had said it. So that was a fun way to get to know more about people too. The next activity for the following week was called Back to Back. With the back-to-back activity, as you see in the left picture, they sat with their backs to one another. I gave them some sentences in Spanish to read to their partner. For example, La muchacha es pelirroja, and the partner would have to draw what he or she heard, which in English would be the girl is red-haired. So the person would try to draw a picture of a girl with red hair. Or el muchacho es alto, the boy is tall. And the person would try to draw a picture of a tall boy. And then they would look at each other's work and try to figure out if the person had heard them correctly and, you know, drawn everything the right way. As I was looking for things throughout the term, again, I was watching for if they worked well together, if it felt like there was a sense of belonging rather than exclusion. I was looking for positive relationships, resolving conflicts peacefully, learning names, finding partners. And I found that of the 6 occasions that I asked people to find a group or a partner, I only had to intervene a few times. So 88% of the time, I did not have to intervene and everybody was able to find a partner or a group, which was nice. Also, by the 25th day, again, 80% of the students knew the majority of the students' names within the class. I recorded more positive interactions than negative. With it seems like they weren't getting along. I recorded more instances of being able to resolve conflicts peacefully. As a matter of fact, I think I only recorded one instance in which it felt like they weren't able to resolve it on their own and I had to step in. With the post-survey, I asked them various questions about community, and some of them related more to the teacher with the community, like these two, and some related more to student. So I'm going to scroll through these and let you glance here. With these two, it's more about student-to-student interaction. I feel that students in my class respect each other, that they get along with one another. I feel comfortable with other students. I feel supported in class by my peers. I feel I have friends in this class. I feel that group or partner work helps me feel part of the community. I feel that students are able to resolve conflicts peacefully. I feel included rather than excluded in the classroom community. I feel that students interact positively with each other in my class and that students work well together. What I did notice with comparing gifted students to general education students, the results indicate that a majority of the students at least somewhat agree with the positive statements from the survey. While for most of the statements, a majority agrees or strongly agrees. And I felt like that was encouraging. But also, I noticed that the results indicate a higher percentage of identified gifted students agreeing or strongly agreeing with the statements than general education students. For future plans, this is the order of the favorites among the students. The majority of them liked Would You Rather, then La Tomatina, then Back to Back, and tied for their least favorite was Getting to Know You on Canvas and cartoon panels. So what I'd like to do is adjust the activities that need some modifications. Because like for the cartoon panels, I think that what some of them didn't like about it was the randomness of being assigned to a 3-person group. So maybe I need to make it a little bit bigger. The back-to-back, nearly everybody liked that, but a couple of them said it was just hard to hear. The Getting to Know You on Canvas, even though that was recorded as, tied for their least favorite, still the students reported that they felt that that was an effective tool as an icebreaker, getting to know one another. So what I'd like to do is share a summary of these results with my professional learning coordinator and find out if I could create a Canvas course on creating community for our staff, which would be, creating community through team building, or